Hi, and welcome to another recap of Stuff of the Week for the final week of February 2026, give or take a day. First up, we're going to talk about viewing. Over the weekend, I went and saw a matinee performance of the stage play of Paranormal Activity, which was excellent, I'm very happy to say. The story and characters don't have any connection to the timeline or the characters in the film franchise, but the manner of the titular activity and that it is the characters themselves, not the location, that is being haunted, does place this in the same continuity or universe as the Paranormal Activity films, or at least all the ones I've seen. I'll admit that I gave up on the series when I walked out on a screening of Paranormal Activity 4, and never looked back. Just was like, I'm done. Until now, because I was very curious as to how the haunting or the kind of story technique that was used in the film franchise would translate to a stage production. And so, which is the same thing that got me going to see Stranger Things: The First Shadow on Broadway, and a production of The Woman in Black at the Lesher Center in Walnut Creek. And the answer to the question is it fit quite well. There were numerous call-outs or callbacks to scenes or sequences, and even some scares that occurred in the first three Paranormal Activity films. One particularly impressive moment had the audience collectively gasp, with one person near me, saying, "How did they do that?" and followed by an explosion of applause. If there was any downside to this stage production, I think that the backstory elements got a little confusing in the second act, and it became difficult for me to suss out who or what was being haunted by who and for what and for whatever reason. However, that could also have been by design because of some of the revelations. But I felt that the story played out well, and that I left the theater very happy. It was scary, it was suspenseful, and it was surprising. And if you have a chance to see a production of it, I would recommend it. I don't know. The smaller, when you get down to smaller productions, more like community theater productions or independent productions, I don't know that this is a show. It'll take a certain level of technical acumen to really to pull this off. But where there's a will, there's a way. And so that was the viewing. No movies, just the stage production of Paranormal Activity. As far as reading goes, I did read 2 stories from the Weird Women anthology. Should put that there. The first one was one called The Moonstone Mass, which was written by Harriet Prescott Spofford, and it is a pseudo Lost World alternate universe kind of story about a man that is eager to earn the good favor of an elderly relative so he can get a much desired financial inheritance. So the man agrees to undertake a search for the Northwest Passage. But what he finds in the icy expanses of the northernmost Arctic is something far stranger and sanity challenging. Like the very first story in the anthology, it was a little bit difficult to follow because of the amount of verbiage. It's an older story and it's a wall of text, but there are some really great descriptive passages in there, and it really gets phantasmagorical uh, in the latter half. So it's well worth reading. The other story that I read in Weird Women was Lost in a Pyramid or The Mummy's Curse by Louisa May Alcott, who is probably most famous for writing Little Women and I think Little Men. But she evidently loved writing tales like this, and boy, does it show. This was a good one. An innocent question into the origin of some strange seeds brings forth a weird tale that unleashes a mummy's curse that has been patiently gestating for centuries. Yeah, again, it was really good, and it has a description of one of the most creepiest plants it's ever been my displeasure to see. This thing is like a proto Audrey 2. I'm just like, not that it's out eating people or anything, but this is not something you look at and go, oh, that would look so nice in my house or my garden. It would be it'd be more like, oh God, kill it with fire. So this anthology is turning out to be a good investment in my financially and in my time. I also read two stories from Twilight Zone magazine, the June 1989. Yeah, June 1989 issue. It was their last issue. And these were two stories that were the first sales for the authors. They were the premier sales that appeared in the Twilight Zone magazine, so they were considered premieres. First up was a story called Maggie by Dan Bennett, and this basically is it's a short. The other is also a short. Very bittersweet, nostalgic, kind of that weird cognitive dissonance of wanting to recapture the magic of youth, but also having to live with the confusion and disappointment of adulthood. A trio of friends gather to pay their respects to a beloved elderly librarian who has passed, and they learn a very heartwarming and, again, bittersweet secret that actually invokes a classic Twilight Zone episode, The Changing of the Guard. Albeit, I guess, this really is a pretty good mix of the bittersweet and dirty realism you find in Stephen King, the grounded, like, tactile world, but infused with the ghost of the nostalgia of Ray Bradbury's October Country. And it was a very good story. And if you can find it, great. As far as I look, I looked on the Internet Science Fiction Database. No, Internet Speculative Fiction Database, isfdb.org. And it looks like Bennett only had two other stories published. One was The Way of Prophets, which appeared in the anthology A Wizard's Dozen, and On Perdition, which appeared in the anthology A Starfarer's Dozen. Okay, we move on to the other. That was Maggie. Then we're going to move on. I should have showed this at the beginning. That's Maggie. I want to make sure that I got that. And then the other story is Spuds by Terry Runte. Or Runte. That is some great art too, man. Although I don't know if it's really demonstrative of the story, but it's great art nonetheless. As you can tell, this was a laugh out loud and pitch black comedic tale of what happens when a side of mashed potatoes starts encouraging a man to marry his mistress. This got me belly laughing and giggling throughout. It was a lot of fun, and I again looked up Runte on the ISFDB and saw that this looked to be his only fiction sale, at least in the speculative fiction market. And he also was listed as having had a series of essays that appeared in Omni magazine around the same time. So I did another internet search, and what I found was not funny. Terry Runte was a humorist and also a screenwriter. He had, in addition to some work that was appearing in Omni, he also had work appearing in National Lampoon and in Playboy, humorous work. And he had written screenplays for a film called Mystery Date, which I think starred Ethan Hawke, and Super Mario Brothers, which starred Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Hopper. And unfortunately, he was murdered in 1994 in Jamaica while doing research on another project. Condolences to his friends and family. I'll put a link to the webpage that a friend of his started as a kind of a memorial for Terry. Yeah, that's kind of that's a downer there. Very sad. The book I did read, beginning to end, was The Making of Deep Red. The official title is Dario Argento, The Making of Deep Red. Which I got at the Profondo Rosso store, and in 2024, I think. And as was the case with all the purchases I made at that time, as you can see, I got it signed by Luigi Cozzi, manager and collaborator with Argento. He edited this along with Federico Trazzi and Antonio Tentore. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it is a pretty interesting, and I found, especially in the latter half, really informative collection. It starts off with what is described as a novelization of Deep Red, which looks more like a kind of like a treatment, translation of the script into a synopsis / treatment of the script. Doesn't really read like a novel. But interestingly enough, this is of the 123-minute Italian version of the film, which I've only seen once, but you can always tell because there's a scene with Mark, David Hemming's character, where he is talking to a class. And there's also a scene in a garage and a couple other dialogue scenes between him and the reporter for kind of like that hints at like a love story or a romance between the two. And that was trimmed from the international print. And there were further trims made for the United States distribution in its territories, because I think they cut that even down more to like an hour and 40 minutes. The print that I usually watch now is kind of like a composite. It's about an hour and 50 minutes. So it cuts about 10, 12 minutes from the 2-hour version. But the 2-hour version was available through Blue Underground at one point. But what I have on Blu-ray and on digital through iTunes or iMovies is the, I think, hour and 50-minute version. Maybe hour and 45. I don't know. But it's a great film. It's probably Argento's best film, or it's usually tied between this and Suspiria. My favorite is Tenebrae, but that's favorite, not best. Those are two different things. But to get back to the book, they then have an interview with many. This book was published in 2012, so they have some interviews with Argento, with Daria Nicolodi, which was really informative and interesting. She seemed like a really interesting and cool person. And also the various people responsible for the music, the cinematographer, who I learned thinks this book was also the cinematographer on Lucio Fulci's New York Ripper. Learn something new every day. Also, the screenwriter Bernardino Zapponi, and many others. It really kicks into high gear for me and falls into something that really went from 3 stars to 4 for me, because it ends with a couple of essays that discuss the movie's release and the movie's response from critics. They even let's see if I can find it. There was one where there was like a negative review printed. I'm looking, and this is really not. Oh yeah, this review from Cineforum, number 145, the June-July 1975 issue. Because where the critic writes of Dario Argento, saying he is unjustly referred to with the enthusiasm typical of those who have to build a new myth every week for newspapers, as a sort of Hitchcock disciple. And he calls the movie coarsely contorted and would be frightening. And basically, just saying the movie, that it's filled with absurd and useless twists, and it's preposterous. Everything is devoid of any eroticism. It's just it was. I was surprised and tickled that they went with this scathing review, which is always nice. I don't agree with it, but the person does argue their points effectively. Although I'm like, I think I saw a different movie than you did, dude. There's also some really great talks about how comparing the use of music, especially the lullaby, and how it echoes the use of the Carillion, I think it was, in For a Few Dollars More, which is basically the music box stopwatch that sets up the standoff between the Colonel and Indio, and at the end of the film, and also the use of the harmonica in Once Upon a Time in the West, which Argento with Bernardo Bertolucci, they both wrote the treatment from which the script was created. So, this was a lot of fun, and I think of all the Deep Red books I've read, the Profondo Rosso store books I've read, this is the best and the one I recommend unreservedly. If you're a fan of Deep Red and a fan of Dario Argento, you're going to want to have this in your library. You might be able to order it from the store, or you might be able to get it on ebook format. But highest recommendation from me on that. And the other reading I'm doing is I started going through the Vampirella. Sorry, I hit my mic. I don't know if that came through. The Vampirella Archive, Volume 4. I've only read the very first story, which was a retcon, I guess you could say. I don't know, of the origin of Vampirella. I might probably might do a thumb through of this, but it basically retells of how Draculon, the planet she is from, was dying, and their water source, which is blood, is drying up. And there is a guy, Tristan, that is like her boyfriend, lover, who goes mad. And I think they're setting up another storyline that would go through the future issues. But all the other stories that appeared in the issue that story appeared in, it was in the 1972 annual. Turns out that they were all reprints, so they're not included in this archive. Just that story and the cover for the issue, and then they go to the next issue. They only original tales are in there, so if there are any reprints, they tell you what archive you can find them in. And I'm at, this is 4, and I think I'm up to I have 7, I think, of them, of these hardcovers. But yeah, I'm chipping away through that. I'm also going to be putting together a 500-piece Stranger Things puzzle. And going back to reading, since I finished Deep Red Profondo Rosso, I picked up this book I got at Son of Monsterpalooza a few years back. It's Alive, which is the story of the making. Oh, it's the novel, historical fiction about the making of the first Frankenstein, 1931. How Junior, the Carl Laemmle Jr. Basically cemented Universal as a horror or monster studio with Frankenstein. And the author, Julian David Stone, he and a descendant of the Laemmles, whose name escapes me right now, but I'll put a link to her channel in the description, because she does she and Stone do panels about the Universal Frankenstein movies. They started with Frankenstein. They've done Bride of Frankenstein, and last year they did Son of Frankenstein. So I'm assuming that Ghost, which is the 4th movie in the franchise, is going to be forthcoming. And I look forward to hearing about that. I also talk about this because I'm going to talk about my brain for a minute. Earlier this week, or at the start of the week, I took a picture of what I affectionately now call my Crenod stack, which is CR/NOD. CR stands for currently reading, so it's, and in that picture, which has the Rebirths of Tao, Weird Women, Deep Red, and Vampirella, I was currently reading 3 of those 4 books. Rebirths of Tao is a nod, which means next on deck. It's coming around that. However, you will have already knows that I mentioned start this book, which wasn't on the Crenod pile. That's because I do something weird. Again, this is my brain. I don't know why I do this. It's not OCD. Maybe it's anal retention. Maybe it's anxiety. I don't know. But what I do is I'm trying to get my Goodreads Sudoku list to 50 books. Just 50. Used to be a lot longer. It's currently hovering around 60. And the way I'm doing that is the oldest book on the list will get put on the Nod stack. Will be next on deck. Then there is the more recent books, which are on the homepage of Goodreads in a box of little like 6, going from most recent to whatnot. The second round is a book from there. And that was Deep Red. And then there's a third book, which is the wild card book, which is from all of the books I've bought that I haven't added to my Goodreads list. And this book's been sitting over on the shelf for a while. So I just add that, start reading it. So when I finish It's Alive, I will be going to The Rebirths of Tao, and then a book from the 6, one of the 6 there. It'll either be the second Dave and the Monsters book, or maybe Virus, which is a novelization of a Bruno Mattei movie that Severin printed. Yeah, I'm going to read a novelization of a Bruno Mattei movie. I got hobbies. No soundtracks added to the collection, and I already mentioned I'm going to be putting together a Stranger Things 500-piece puzzle, which will be posted next week. Excuse me. Let's get in the Wayback Machine now and look at the stuff that happened through the work week of February 23rd to the 27th. So here we go. Right. Let me make sure I got that right. All right. February 23rd, 1964. 7 Days in May is going to be opening soon. I think this might be my favorite John Frankenheimer movie. It's tense and believable from start to finish. It's got a great script by Rod Serling and wonderful performances by Kirk Douglas, Burt Lancaster, and Frederick March. And it involves a potential military coup of the government of the United States of America. And it is a movie that we could watch today, and it seems like it could still happen. It's a great movie. February 23rd, 1969. And we have an ad for the paperback release of By the Pricking of My Thumbs by Agatha Christie. This is the 4th Tommy and Tuppence novel, but I've only read The Secret Adversary of the Tommy and Tuppence books. But when I was looking up this one, I learned that this was the duo's 4th adventure, and according to some commentary and reviews I kind of glanced at, it seems to have it's one of Christie's more overtly Gothic tales, or has some the dark Gothic atmosphere, has crumbling mons in it, crumbling mansion in it, or old folks home. I love the title too. I think it's from Macbeth. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. All right, moving on. February 24th, 1974, and we have an advertisement for a New Mexico set tale of Gothic romance and murder from Phyllis A. Whitney, titled The Turquoise Mask. The book Graveyard and Paperback Warrior have succeeded in perking my interest in returning to this genre of Gothic suspense/romance. I might pick this one up or another one. I don't have any idea how good or bad it is, but I now have a handy-dandy notebook that I've created that I make a list of authors that I have discovered via Twilight Zone magazine or BookTube, that when I go to a used bookstore, maybe even the library, I know I don't what do I want? What am I going to look for? I now know. And so hopefully I'll find it at some point. Also on February 24th, but 50 years earlier, in the year 1924, there is an ad for the serialization of Frank L. Packard's novel, The Four Stragglers. This looks to be about a group of World War I veterans that form a criminal syndicate and engage in nefarious activities, I think. It is available at Project Gutenberg, and you might find reprints at used bookstores, or maybe it's at the library. I don't know, but it sounds like a fun, interesting read. February 25th, 1983, and in Horror Planet is going to be opening. I do remember reading about this movie, I think when it was called Inseminoid. That's what it was called, I think, in the UK and in some foreign territories. But it was Horror Planet in the United States and its territories. I remember reading about it in the pages of Fangoria magazine and being really excited / interested in it. And when I finally did see it on home video, I was happy to not be all that disappointed with it. But I was dismayed to learn that the shock ending had been spoiled by one of the gorier still shots used in the magazine coverage. And also, it's in the German lobby card set, too. It's like, hey, come on, guys. That's the last shot of the movie. What are you doing there? But it's a fun, nasty little movie, and Stephanie Beacham's in it. And if you fans of Brit horror will recognize her from... she was in the Nightcomers, the Michael Winter pseudo sequel to The Innocents. I believe she was in Dracula AD 1972, and a lot of stuff. So I give it a recommendation if you're into it. It's an alien clone that or knockoff or cash in or cash grab that delivers, and yeah, it's worth a look if that's your sort of thing. Also February 25th, but in the year 1922, Love Story magazine hypes up the short story The Alibi of Fate by Edith Sessions Tupper, which sounds equal parts silly and intriguing. I mean, you get married in secret, but no one's supposed to know. And your husband's accused of a murder, but the murder occurred while you were getting married in secret. What do you do? Yeah, like I said, it's silly and intriguing. February 26th, 1978. And I believe the second episode of Project UFO is going to be airing. This was a short-lived buzzkill of a show that I remember watching and actually being disappointed by, as all the weird incidents and encounters were given logical explanations. This is basically, I think, like Project Blue Book as a TV series. So these guys from the Air Force come in. Somebody's like, I saw a UFO, and they went and said, yeah, well, we looked and we did this investigation, and it turns out you saw a weather balloon or, a ball of lightning, and yeah, and This was in February of '78, so we had seen Close Encounters, and this was not what I wanted. I wanted more magic and wonder and less reason and rationality. The episode that is being hyped here is Sighting 4002, the Joshua Flats incident, which I might have watched. I do remember watching this show, but the synopsis on IMDb states, prominent citizens of a town report seeing a UFO, but investigators cannot get information from them and turn instead to an 11-year-old boy. Yeah, that doesn't shake or stir up any memories, but I don't know. Um, Also, February 26th, 50 years earlier, in the year 1928. And here's a Sunday ad, another Sunday ad for the book department of the H.C. Capwell Company. This one hypes the availability of two self-help titles, Marriage Made Easy and I've Got Your Number, both penned by the duo of Doris Webster and Mary Hopkins. Yeah, I'm not going to read these books, but somebody did. All right, we're going to go up now to February 27th, 1981. And The Private Eyes is opening. Considering its old dark house plot trappings and settings, the Gothic mansion, I'm bewildered that I gave The Private Eyes a pass when it was on the big screen. I mean, we had gone and seen The Prize Fighter, which was the movie Conway and Knotts had made prior to this, and we both, the family, all enjoyed it. So I don't know why we didn't go see this. Also, I had a raging crush on Trisha Noble, who was also in this movie at that time, and I watched Strike Force, a short-lived, I think it lasted one season, cop show with Robert Stack, and she was a member of the primary cast. She was a member of the team, and I watched the show each week and was just like. And finally, rounding out the week, we have on February 27th, 1920, an ad for Hearst's magazine. Which mentions that it has a true ghost story penned by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The title given in the ad, and when I went to Galactic Central and went into the database or index of issues, saw that it was titled A Cottage in Hampshire. Beyond this, I cannot find any information about it. There is another story, a crime story that was published in the 19th century, I think of the 1850s, maybe the 1860s, by Doyle, that referenced a cottage in Hampshire, but it has no connection with what is being advertised here. So, if anybody knows about it, please share your information. Yeah. So we have a haunting in a cottage in Hampshire that can or cannot be confirmed. And that looks to bring me to the end of the week. So that's it. I hope you have a great week, and hope you enjoyed this little blathering I did. And I look forward to yapping at you next time.